A big thank you to TinyBuild for providing a review code for Waking. Combining third-person action and guided meditation, Waking is an emotional adventure through your dying mind. Battle the forces of oblivion, conjure the memories of loved ones, and join them in the fight for your life.
Actually, no. Waking is what happens when you take an NES game and turn it 3D. Because, oh yes, this is one of the hardest games I've ever played. And that's saying something. It's also confusing for whatever reason.
So here's the confusing part regarding this game. Generally, games in this genre, which are an emotional adventure, as this game puts it on its Steam description, is that they are light on the gameplay, see Journey, and heavy on the story elements, see Life is Strange. This might be the first time in my life where I played a game that's trying to break down the player's personality and then try to feed you dialogue to get you to reflect on your life and your deepest insecurities. It does that not by focusing on the story, oddly enough, but by focusing on the gameplay. But you see, the problem with that is that you will die, and you will die a lot. But before jumping into that, let's start from the beginning.
I really hope it's not me because I wear glasses as it is, but this is like the first game that ever made me want to move my couch closer to my TV, and that's not just because of the text size, it's because of other unfortunate things, but I'll get to them later.
This game, because of the personal nature of it, probably has one of the shortest plots I have ever seen. You are a guy in a coma, you have to fight personal demons to beat the coma and eventually wake up, and that's about it. The game starts with you waking up in your head, I guess, and off we go. The first thing you notice is how awkward the controls feel in this game, which normally wouldn't bother me with games in this genre because gameplay is normally not the main focal point, as I mentioned earlier. But in this game, it is, because it took me over 30 hours to beat the game. I know Steam says I played this game for 43 hours, but that's just because I fell asleep one night and left the game on, so yeah. Anyway, the game starts with a tutorial level. That's about an hour and a half long. It does its job okay and explains the story and gameplay mechanics of the game. I say it does an okay job because I feel the game is simple enough that the tutorial shouldn't have been longer than 30 minutes, but it is, unfortunately. There is a basement area in the game that explains the objects that exist in this game pretty well, so I don't see why the tutorial was that long, and that's actually the problem with this game. Almost every element in this game overstays its welcome at some point, and by the time you get to the 15-hour mark, you will be just exhausted by it all and just wanna pull the plug. For those of you who are interested in the game, I will explain the gameplay mechanics as simply as I can so that you don't waste as much time as I did. Essentially, after you finish the tutorial level, you are sent to a palace, your palace of solitude if you will. The palace has 3 sections in total: Origins, Loved Ones, Identity, as well as the final room. Each section of the game contains 4 pages that you need to complete the Book of Summonus. The pages are also needed to solve the puzzle in the final room. Once you have that done, you gain access to the last section of the game.
Sounds simple enough, but this game is really hard. Why does this game have a Souls difficulty option?
Yes, this mode is exactly how you think it is. Completely brutal. And this is where we get to the gameplay. Frankly, I think this screen says it all. But regardless, here we go. The game tries the whole Binding of Isaac thing without the extensive character customization and the ridiculous number of items in 3D. While I think it does work for the most part, this game has one major issue. It does not feel good to play. Don't get me wrong, the game doesn't feel bad to play, it's fully functional. But the moment you move your character, you will feel it. Your movements have no weight to them. Feels like they made a game in Unity and just kept the default character movement setting. Games like Dark Souls aren't good just because they are hard. They are good because they also feel good to play. The Chosen Undead has weight behind his movements. The swinging of the sword, the casting of spells, taking an enemy's attack with your shield all feel very satisfying. It's not just the act of beating an area or a boss in Dark Souls that feels good. It's that and everything else. Aside from, the jumping mechanics which can lead to unfortunate deaths. But you guys get my point. Waking's gameplay is functional, but that's really all I can say about it. Speaking of Dark Souls, if you enjoy the music in Dark Souls 2, namely the theme of Majula, then you will love the soundtrack in this game. It has a very Dark Souls 2 vibe, and I just might buy the soundtrack if I ever find it on sale. Since this game hasn't been released yet, it comes out on June 18th for 20 bucks. Each section of the palace contains a mindscape with branching pathways where some lead to the main path, others could lead to side quests and several other extras in the game. Only problem are the menus again. I really hope it's not my eyes, but while the menus are fine, I just can't help but feel the brightness, opacity, or something is too low because I really have to squint to read some of this stuff, especially the mindscape map. I have no idea how this image translates to video, but for me, I had a hard time reading the stuff, which is a problem because I kinda needed to progress. I mean, how do I get to the page that I need? Well, at least the game is nice enough to number the paths, and not only that, when you are deciding between the different pathways, it will also inform you of the main path. I just wish the map feature was better. Each section of the palace took me about 10 hours to beat. I played the whole first section on the indie difficulty, and once I got to the second section of the castle, I noticed a spike in difficulty, which made me try out the different levels of difficulties in this game. I tried the Souls difficulty as well as the easier options in the game, and I found the medium difficulty to be the sweet spot. The game became much more pleasant after that, because I have to tell you, on the indie difficulty, I stopped caring about the story because I was using all my energy just to beat the game. Since we are more than halfway through the review, I am sure you have noticed that your primary power in this game is telekinesis. You pick up objects that are scattered in the level and toss them at the enemies. You can also break different objects in the level to gain neurons. You can think of neurons as your mana. They are what you need to perform special attacks. Your primary objective in most levels is to either activate a 3 or 4 of something, find the correct exit Super Mario style, find your way through mazes, and much more. But most levels play out the same. You defeat the enemies, use hidden areas as well as these crystally rod thingies to get stronger, as well as break objects to unlock memories to be able to beat the boss at the end of a path. Yep, I just said memories. Waking tries to incorporate story elements into the gameplay by making the name of your attacks either a book you enjoy, a movie you love, and you get the idea. I give random names because, well, I'm reviewing the game and I didn't want all my personal info to be displayed for everybody in the game's menu. While this is a very unique and great sounding in concept, the execution leaves a lot to be desired. Since most equip attacks use only the B button or the Y button, you will be going through your menu quite often, selecting stuff, activating them, and then selecting something different, which breaks the gameplay a little too much for my taste. But I do like how they are implemented story-wise. I think for the most part, the game nails the atmosphere, the calming background music, the eerie vibe of your fears when they are out in the open. It's all pretty neat stuff. I just think the game's flow reduces the impact of the emotional element of the experience. Speaking of fears, fear is a gameplay mechanic in this game, not just from a story perspective, but also the more you get hit, i.e. the worse you play, the harder the game gets. The higher your fear is in the area you're playing in, the harder enemies hit and the stronger their shield becomes, which I have to be honest is a very clever mechanic and feels like something you would find in a From Software game. You can use hidden trials to decrease the fear, but overall to get to the end of the game, you must gather hope and wishes to actually be able to beat the game. Yes, I did just say gather hope and wishes.
Oh my god, tea without sugar is disgusting. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff about the game that I left out, but that's mainly due to the fact that the game isn't even out yet, and I didn't want to spoil too much of the game for those of you who are interested in picking this game up. So yeah, I mean, overall, I just think the gameplay is okay, the story is okay, the music is great, and yeah, the game is just okay, and that's about it. So yeah, with that being said, for those of you who are watching, wherever you may be in this world, thank you guys for watching, and stay alive until the next video. Take care.